Following the defeat of his forces at Theodore Fields, Prince Zareth withdrew to Ardenburg, preparing for the end. With the ward broken and the last great hero slain, Regulus and his minions were free to ravage Talara. His champion, the fallen King Adraxus, laughed in the face of his brother's misfortune. Even the most devout followers of the Vigil will admit that the great gods of creation can be difficult to predict. Sometimes it can feel as if they have simply abandoned Talara to its fate. Other times their intervention appears dramatic and miraculous. What would happen then as the children of the gods faced their end at the hand of the Dragon of Extinction? It happened right before his eyes. As death itself spread to claim more and more of the former kingdom of Mathosia, a great light shone on the desecrated battlefield that was Theodore Fields. Zareth watched in awe from the balcony of his cathedral fortress as a great winged seraph lifted a distant broken corpse into its arms. This messenger of the Vigil turned towards the cathedral and flew gracefully towards the Prince of Mathos. Zareth realized at last that the messenger carried none other than the great hero Cyril Calmar. The messenger waved his hand over the body of the warrior, and with a flash of light, his eyes opened. Cyril stood as the messenger returned to the battlefield, joined by scores of its companions. The messengers did not resurrect every slain warrior. Instead, only a small group of heroes returned to battle Adraxus and his master. The reasons for their choices are unknowable to mere mortals, but the devout would say that they were chosen for their piety and their might. These hand-picked champions of the Vigil became the first ascended, the chosen ones destined to save Talara from the ravages of the plains. Adraxus was surprised by this development, but not at all concerned. He knew that his master was far more powerful than any of the false gods of the Vigil, and his ranks were swelled with those who would remain defiant of the Vigil's calling. His Eth and Bami conscripts, led by the mad scientist Orpheus, continued work on drawing the dread god through the Great Rift, now known as the Eye of Regulus. Adraxus also commanded the complete forces of the Endless Court and his own corrupted, enslaved, former Mathosian knights. The Ascended continued to appear miraculously inside Zareth's cathedral, now known as the Sanctuary of Rebirth, the last bastion of hope for Talara. Led by Cyril, representing the Mathosians, Thorin Gamult, last king of the dwarves, and Shyla Starhearth, Pentarch of the elves, the heroes of Talara regrouped and attacked with renewed vigor. Having known death, these guardians were of unshakable faith and dauntless courage. With moments to spare, their combined forces broke through the front lines and approached the Eye. The Ascended were joined by the third Mathos brother Carwin, who had been away from the front lines and escaped the initial slaughter. The Necromancer King, believing it to be his moment of triumph, called upon his god to help him take the last step and shed his mortal body. The corrupted, twisted soul of Adraxus emerged as the Shade of Regulus, an avatar of the dread god. Before anyone could react, the monstrous lich slew the mortal Carwin, destroying his body with the unholy death magic his master had granted him. The Ascended responded with a desperate, furious attack to destroy the creature and end the Shade War. Adraxus fell, and his body was shattered by the hammer of the Vigil. Though the battle had been won, the war was far from over. The damage had been done, and with the ward destroyed, the plains began their assault, opening rifts simultaneously in every corner of Talara. Zareth and his forces retreated to his old citadel at Port Sion, where they might mount a last stand against the invading forces. Zareth allowed a repentant Orpheus to join his forces against the protests of Cyril and the other Ascended champions. In their mind, Orpheus' followers were heretics and traitors, incapable of honest remorse and undeserving of forgiveness. Zareth believed that all of the people of Talara must be united against the coming onslaught, regardless of past crimes or affiliations. Years passed, during which time more fortresses were built throughout the many kingdoms. Zareth worked tirelessly to build and reinforce alliances, despite the growing unease between the devout and the former traitors. Ultimately, Zareth did fall to betrayal, but it was not the Defiant who were responsible. Alsbeth, an Ascended Guardian and a powerful mage, tricked Cyril Calmar into leading the majority of his forces away from the capital, leaving Zareth inside with only a small guard. She disabled the city's remaining defenses and welcomed an assault of the Endless Court and invasions from the Plain of Death. Taken by surprise, Zareth sacrificed himself to seal the evil inside. His final fate remains unknown. Left without the leadership of the last heir of Clan Mathos, the alliance immediately crumbled, split along ideological lines. Cyril Calmar accused Orpheus and his followers of treachery, but without evidence could only banish them from his army. The Mathosians, dwarves, and elves withdrew to Sanctum, the holy city built by Born Gamel after the Shade War. This group was now finally solidified as the Guardians, the devout of the Vigil, led by Cyril, Orin, and Shalastar Hearth. Orpheus, his disciple Ashikatari, and the others who would be defiant of the Vigil's call, traveled to Meridian, a fortress city originally built by the Abyssal Cult. The traitor Elsbeth took her reward as the head of the Endless Court and the bride of Regulos. In the wake of Adraxis' failure, she would herald the final coming of the Dragon of Extinction and the doom of Talara. Thus ended the Age of Man, and the long and glorious reign of the Mathosian Empire perished in the flames of corruption and betrayal, its people scattered, its lands desecrated, and its legacy forever tainted.